It was a frugally clouded summer day in our little village of Christinifer, and as I do in most pleasant Saturday afternoons, I was rocking on the porch of my second home, the Remembering Pub. I spied a curious-looking fellow creaking along on a bicycle in front of old Gapey's Funyams. As was town custom, I raised my beers to cheers the rare visitor into our community. Then he committed the act that lives in infamy. The curly-haired fellow dismounted his bicycle, walked across the street to me, stretched out his rather long arm, and shook my balls. I was stunned. I had never before been fondled like that, except of course tug time at family reunions. He smiled at me and said, "Nice to meet you." "Well, I'll be a sideways cattle gate," I said. "You sure have an interesting way of greeting a man. Where are you from?" He paused, wiped his brow, and said with a peculiar accent, "Da Nederlanden." I yelled out, "Guys, come and see how this weird bastard from Underwearland greets a man." Soon the village men had gathered on the dusty street to receive the gentle fondle my balls had enjoyed. The stranger obliged each and every man, who one by one said, "This sure is an interesting way of greeting a fellow." Some, seemingly incredulous to the new greeting, went back for seconds. Our village financial advisor, Mr. Plowshare, simply stood in front of the visitor until he came in his pants. The stranger, Edgar, made a happy church greeter and one hell of a whip boy. He could crack many kinds of licks, and soon found himself employed at the whip shop. Mr. Plowshare always volunteered to help at licks practice. He always had fancy tastes. Needless to say, we men felt really special. We would gather in the pub and laugh all night long at the women who weren't as special as us men because we got a new handshake and they didn't. Those women couldn't do the handshake because they only had twats, not balls. Then one night while we swilled and slapped, the women cornered our foreigner, held him at gunpoint, and demanded that he make a handshake for the women as well. Our boy cracked. He admitted that he didn't intend on shaking my balls when we first met, that he had reached too low by accident, but was so embarrassed that he pretended it was on purpose. This did not sit well with any of the villagers. As we looked at it, this foreigner had his way with our balls under the guise of custom, and if he had played his cards right, he would have had female genitals in his hands as well. We were disgusted by his stupidity, but mostly because we liked it, and the moron had blown it. I was so angry I almost called him one of our recently banned phrases, a fucking retard. We decided, as a community, to let him keep his whip position, but as punishment for his trickery and stupidity, he had to piss outside in the open for an entire year. If any one of us villagers, male, female, young or old, erect or flaccid, saw him in the act of pissing, we could fondle his nuts as long as we wanted. Edgar argued in an underwhelming speech, but in the end, he didn't mind at all. He died at age 73, whip in hand. Christinifer will never again let a stranger ride in and fondle our balls, even if they promise to fondle until climax.